to ZigWheels, and we're bringing you all the updates from the 2019 Eicma show that's happening in Italy. And we're going to start off with the stall that everybody was looking forward to, and that is the KTM stall. What did they have in store? The 390 Adventure, right? Wrong. It didn't make its debut at the 2018 Eicma show. What did turn up was the 790 Adventure, which was expected. I know you have lots of questions about the 390 Adventure. What we can tell you is that it's still on track, will be launched in 2019 in the second half. And coming to the 790 Adventure, it was offered in two guises, showcased there as the R and the standard. The R is a proper rally spec bike. It gets 240 mm of suspension travel at the front. The standard bike gets about 200 mm of suspension travel. And the engine, it's a 799cc parallel twin, which was of course also seen in the 790 Duke. And this is of course a really off-road oriented motorcycle. KTM after all, right? And the R spec gets a special rally mode as well, in which you can customize the intervention of the electronics by 9 levels. And we're all talking off-road, and in 2017 Hero had made a big splash at the Eicma show with the Xpulse, and this time around they have the Xpulse 200T. T stands for touring. Now this motorcycle is based off the Xpulse, but it's more road biased obviously, and is meant to do long distances better. So for that it gets a lower seat, which will make it more comfortable for even shorter riders. It's low by about 30 millimeters. The handlebar length is also not as wide, because after all you won't need that much leverage on this motorcycle. It has beautiful detailing like the pinstriping, and the instrument console also gets integrated features for navigation. This bike is expected in India in 2019 along with the Xpulse in the first quarter itself. Apart from the 200T, Hero also had 3 other motorcycles on the stand. This was a flat tracker, a desert sled, and a cafe racer. These are concepts for now, but we get the picture. We can expect more iterations on the 200 platform, which has already debuted in India on the Extreme 200R, right? So we can expect more variations on that platform in the near future. And sticking to names that are close to our heart here in India, Royal Enfield. They really drummed up a lot of interest about what was going to go down at their stall, and what it ended up with was the Royal Enfield Concept KX. Now the KX harks back to a motorcycle from 80 years ago, which was also the KX, and it was a 1140cc displacement motorcycle, whereas the concept that Royal Enfield showed right now is a 834cc V-twin air and oil-cooled motorcycle. But basically Royal Enfield is saying, don't focus too much on the mechanicals, look at it as a design. And it does look pretty good. It's really low slung, it has a really strong stance, looks very meaty, and there are some really interesting bits on it, like the girder fork at the front, which is essentially a double wishbone setup for the front suspension. It doesn't have telescopic forks, and you have a single-sided swing arm at the rear, a softer unit. There's a monoshock hidden away somewhere over there, and the motorcycle really looks very impressive. It may be, is kind of a direction for Royal Enfield of their ambitions, where they want to go in the future. Bigger, bolder, and more premium. Well, for now, Royal Enfield said that this is not a production motorcycle, it's just a design showcase. Well, now let's move on to something really exciting, and that we can talk about it coming to India. And this takes us to the Ducati stall, and that's where Ducati had the V4R. The R in the name, yeah, race, obviously. The V4S, which is already on sale in India, in that the S stands not for sport, for stradale, which means street, right? And this now is the race spec V4. This is basically complying to the WSBK rules, for which it has a smaller engine, 1000cc, but it is the second most powerful production motorcycle in the world today, with 221 horsepower. The most powerful, of course, being the H2. And keep in mind, that is supercharged. This Ducati naturally aspirated. And along with that, it's of course become lighter. The chassis has been reworked. It gets winglets on the nose like any proper sport bike today should, because after all, MotoGP racing. So this all has been done to make the bike sharper in terms of the way it turns in, which is of course intended to help it with lap times. And if you think the V4R isn't going to come to India, think again. I bet that it will, because Ducati has made it a habit of bringing everything that they make to India as well. So this should be exciting. And of course the design has also been tweaked a little bit, keeping in mind its new purpose, so it gets larger wings to help keep it cool. And how expensive would it be? Well, we'd bet it would be about pretty expensive. Now, if you're the kind who likes to thrash it out on the street and really fool around, then you would love supermotors. And if you thought they were going away, think again, because Ducati has thrown their weight behind it all over again with the Hypermotard 950. Now this, of course, is a new motorcycle with sophisticated electronics. Gets the 6-axis IMU, which means traction control, cornering, ABS, all the works that Ducati is now offering pretty much across the range, actually across the entire range. The 950 also carries over the engine, but it makes more power, 5 PS more, and along with that there's also a more sophisticated electronics in terms of convenience features. You get a 5-inch TFT display, and when you move to the SP, of course, you get a lot more kit. All-in suspension, front and rear, you get carbon fiber parts, forged Marchesini wheels, you get more lean angle, 47 degrees of it, and of course this is also a bit lighter than the outgoing Hypermotard. So yeah, if you wanted a Hypermotard, this is taking hyperness to another level again, right? Now, if you've been looking at intercontinental travel on 2 wheels but on a slightly tight budget, you've surely looked at Ducati's Multistrada 950, and that has also been revamped, and here at Eicma you could see what it has to offer. The standard version, well, it's essentially the same, the chassis and the engine, but in terms of the look, it looks like its bigger brother. The front end and the rear end, very similar to the 1260, but of course it has a few tweaks. For instance, the wheels, they're lighter but stronger. That aside, the biggest update, of course, is the 6-axis IMU, which means you get cornering, ABS, and of course traction control, which was on offer earlier as well. Now moving on to the S version, this is where things get really exciting, because the Multistrada felt like a bit of a step down from the 1260. Now no more, because you get all the electronic bits that you wanted, like the Ducati Skyhook electronic suspension. You get the quick shifter for clutchless up and down shifts. There's cruise control. You have a 5-inch color TFT display, full LED headlamps, hands-free ignition, and backlit switchgear controls. Whoa, we're not done yet, because there's still the Multistrada 1260 Enduro to talk about. What's new in that? They had the Multistrada Enduro earlier as well, right? And the 1260, yes, of course, it has the bigger heart, and which gives it a lot more torque, right from low RPMs going all the way up to higher RPMs. So it's still got the punch, but along with that, everything on this motorcycle has been pretty much revised. From the chassis, the tires, the rims, everything, the electronics, everything has been reworked to make this a more apt motorcycle should you decide to actually head out and wander between continents where there are no roads. Of course, to do so, you need to have height, of course.